My cousin has come to me absolutely distraught. She confided to me that at a family wedding about 2 months ago, she got very drunk and had sex with our second cousin.
Fucking hell.
Keep in mind, she is newly married. But wait, it gets crazier. Oh my gosh, this is
fucked up.
is it?
It's fucked up. It is many levels of fucked up.
A lot of people sometimes when we get some questions that are super left field, people think that we make them up. We have never made a question up in the history of Life Uncut.
Like swear, hand on heart.
Every question is written in and it's always anonymous, but it's always from you guys and from the listeners.
We receive hundreds and hundreds of messages every single week, all around different questions, like from everything, from cheating to relationship breakdowns to friendship breakdowns, like literally everything. And every so often there are some where we're like, we can't even believe this is real life. And this is one of those.
Okay. My cousin has come to me absolutely distraught. She confided to me that at a family wedding about 2 months ago, she got very, very, very drunk and had sex with our second cousin. Keep in mind, she's newly married and her husband couldn't make it to this wedding. She was flying solo. She also told me that she is pregnant and not 100% sure who the dad is, either her husband or her second cousin. She has decided just to assume that it's her husband's. He's not looking into a paternity test, even though we are so close. It took her all this time to tell me. She is ashamed about it, and I think the only reason she has opened up to me is because of the pregnancy. My question is it my place to tell the husband, who I am very close with too, for his sake and the baby's sake? It could have serious health complications. Or do I just pretend I know nothing? Any advice would be appreciated as I have no one else to talk about. Oh, my God.
I can't even speak. I firstly just, I mean, we can all cast a lot of judgment in this, and I know that we probably will at some point. I'm so sorry that you're in the situation now where you have to decide what's the moral right thing to do. Like, it is so unfair, and I understand why your cousin needed someone to confide in. I'm sure that this is a lot for her to process as well, but it is a very unfair situation to be in when someone comes to you with their secret and says, I need you to keep this. And sometimes, this happens to us where people say, I need to tell you something, but please don't tell anyone. And you make that commitment before you know what the thing is. And that's so unfair to put that.
Trauma dumping.
It's completely trauma dumping.
But I also get it too. Like I get it
Go
on
to
both.
a therapist. Go and speak to a therapist. If you've done something that's so like immoral in some ways, and I don't want to say, I mean, maybe immoral is not the right word, but it's so scandalous. It's going to rip families apart. Don't confide in someone who that's going to have a massive emotional toll on as well. Go and speak to a therapist or go and speak to a third party. That would be my first advice. And I know that's not the question you asked.
No, but while we're there, taking away from the fact that this is like a cousin thing, away from that, it just goes into we've had this conversation so many times around cheating when people have written in this exact instance. My friend has been cheating on her husband. She told me, but I'm so close to the husband. Do I tell them?
Yeah.
My friend's been cheating on his wife. Should she know? Like, being put in that position is a really awful place to be put in, but it happens
often,
so frequently. And I guess in this particular situation, there's a little sprinkle of spice on top because it's the cousin and the pregnancy. It's not just cheating; it's a cousin and a pregnancy.
Firstly, I just want to rule something out because you said it could have serious health implications. I think that there's a lot of rumors around, not rumors, but like there's a lot of kind of like urban legend that if you have a kid with your cousin, that they're going to have 3 fingers and 7 toes. I think that we definitely have been brought up to think that people are going to have a lot of genetic mutations if that happens. Legally within Australia, you can marry your cousin. The risk or the increased risk of genetic mutation because of that is only 3 to 6% increase on what that genetic mutation risk already is, which is a very small increase overall.
So it goes from 3% to 6%.
Oh, sorry. It increases from 3% to 6%.
Yeah, and that's just from our research.
Yes. So I would say that the risk to the child is minimal. So I don't think make your decisions off the fact that you think that there's this genetic risk. I think that probably makes you feel a little bit better morally, depending on what you want to say or where you want to go with this. But I don't think that should be your motivator. Like your fear around the child's physical or genetic normalities, I don't think should be what propels you to make a decision. So let's just rule that one out.
And you also can marry your cousin and second cousin. That is completely legal. That is going to shock a lot of people. but you can marry them. Did you know, this has nothing to do with the question, but you can also marry your aunt, uncle, and nieces and nephews, which I think is fucked. But you can legally.
It's worse. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Britt, you start.
I do want to be careful with this one because I feel very grateful that we have done this podcast for so long. If I had this question 5 years ago when we started, I would have been shook to the core and I would have said, there is so much wrong with this. You need to tell them. You need to have a conversation with her about the baby's health, all of this stuff, right? But we have had so many crazy questions and done so much research over the years that this shocks me less now. It really does. And I know somebody that has married their cousin. I don't think they had kids, but I know they got married. So I feel like I've been a bit desensitized over the years from how much exposure I've had to it.
People listening to this are going to be like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? This is crazy.
But morally, my head will never get around this. Even knowing that 3% chance of there being complications with a baby normally can go to 6% when it's a cousin or second cousin. So it does increase for sure.
Doubles.
So the problem for me isn't that the baby could be from the second cousin. The problem here just comes back to a standard cheating problem. Now you know you're friends with him, right? You're friends with the husband and you're close. And now you know that his child might not actually be his. That's a really big issue and it's a big weight on your shoulders to hold too.
I feel differently to you, Britt. I think that the cousin thing does play a massive impact. And the reason for that is because there is so much humiliation and shame loaded into this. Obviously, she is completely distraught. She sounds like she's distraught. She's humiliated. She got super, super drunk and had sex with someone who she, if she was of sound mind, absolutely would never have had sex with. And that's really, really, really upsetting for her. Like I feel terrible for your cousin that she managed to get to a place where she thought that that was normal or okay.
But people
because
think
she
it's
clearly
normal all the time. They marry their cousins.
No, but she clearly doesn't. She clearly didn't think that that was okay. She's woken up with so much regret around this. And I think that that is an awful situation. Let's now unpack the fact that the question that you're asking isn't around the morality of your cousin sleeping with her cousin. Like, you know, that's not around that. The question is do you tell her husband?
Yeah.
Would I tell? No, I wouldn't tell. That doesn't mean that that is the right decision because this is completely subjective. Whatever you feel comfortable with doing, whether you morally feel like you can live with the decision that you make, I don't feel like I would want to take on the massive amount of responsibility that having that secret and giving that secret up would have. And what I mean by that is it will definitely ruin their marriage, which is not your fault. She has done that herself. It's not your responsibility, but it would also ruin family dynamics and the drama and the stress that that would bring. I don't think I personally have it in me, and maybe that's the wrong thing, to take that on board. Conflicting those feelings, however, is that I do believe that that child has the right to grow up knowing who their biological father is. I do believe that there is there's so much lying and deceit that is loaded into this, and I don't condone any of the behavior. I don't condone the lying. I don't condone the pretending as though the baby is your husband's. But I'm saying I wouldn't have the emotional capacity to take on the truth telling, and that maybe is maybe that's a poor reflection of who I am as a person.
No, not at all.
But I think that this will come with so much stress for you, and the question is how do you feel? What can you manage and what can you handle?
I think for me, what I would do, and I did think about what I'd do in this situation, and I agree, Laura. As I said, it's got nothing to do with. Well, I don't think it has anything to do with the cousin situation here. I just think it has to do with the fact of it's cheating. Should they know?
But when you say it has nothing to do with the cousin, don't you think like, well, it's going to be like the aunties and uncles are going to be fighting. That's going to trickle down. Like it's going to affect everyone in that family.
Yeah,
not just the person who's cheated.
Yeah, I guess it's more like for this person that's written in, her question is she's pregnant with possibly someone else's child. Do I tell him or not? So for me in my head right now, I've taken away the cousin thing because I know it's not going to have the complications. It's still possibly someone else's baby. But I think what I would do is I would go to her and say to her, I think you need to be really honest and have that conversation. And if you don't want to tell him, you need to do a paternity test for your knowledge. Because if something happens to that child when it's born and it needs something, or it has medical problems where it needs to know its biological history, like its medical history, if you don't actually know who the father is, you can't give accurate health care to that child. Like you absolutely cannot. If it needs transplants, if it needs to know blood, if it needs blood donations, I mean, like, this is extreme here, but kidney, is it predisposed to something because of what the parents have? If you don't know biologically who its dad is, but you could know, I think that's a selfish choice.
Do you know what as well? We live in a day and age where so many people do their ancestry tests. Like, it's the fear. Your cousin is going to live her life in absolute dread that maybe that child is not biologically her husband's child and that this will come out.
Exactly.
And the likelihood now is with the way that ancestry works and how accessible it is for people to do their DNA testing, and that's only going to increase as our kids get older. This kid is going to find out at some point in time. And then what does that then look like?
Yeah.
It's a secret that you are going to have to carry for your rest of your life. I do agree with you, Britt, but I don't know whether I would be the one to be holding the moral like compass here and being like, I'm the one who's going to tell everyone. I just don't know. I don't know if I have it in me to do that. But I literally cannot believe, I'm so surprised, and this is probably a horrible thing to say, but I'm so surprised that she's choosing to go ahead and have the baby with the uncertainty around it. And maybe that's because of her own beliefs around abortion, or maybe that's because she is married and she can't justify to her husband why she would want to have an abortion. Maybe there's more loaded into this.
We also don't know what her fertility history is like. You don't know.
Totally,
It might be the only child she thinks she could have. You don't know. And
Yeah,
I
agree.
Where the cousin part for me comes back into it right now that I'm bringing it back in, because it is, we can't deny that she had sex with a cousin. If you go to your partner and you say, I need to tell you something, I messed up and I cheated on you. Like, I slept with someone else and I'm pregnant, and whatever you want to do with that, right? There is a chance that you will work through that. There is a chance. For me, it's different when you say, and it was my cousin.
You're never going to work through that.
You don't, I don't think you work through. An affair is one thing, Esther Perel, many other people have told us many times that an affair doesn't have to be the end. It is for a lot of people, and that's okay. It's also not for a lot of people, which is okay. Many people work through it depending on the situation. But when you throw in the fact that the affair was your cousin, it hits different. I understand why she doesn't want to tell him. I don't think it's the right thing, and I think at a minimum, she needs to go and get a paternity test.
I just can't believe she told you. You couldn't torture this shit out of me. You couldn't.
You tell me if you had sex with your cousin for sure.
You could waterboard me and I wouldn't tell you this. Like, there is nothing you could do to me that would make me tell someone this information.
Would you really not tell me?
If I fucked my cousin and I was pregnant and I was unsure, nothing.
I'm so offended. I thought we told each other everything. I told you I farted in front of
I
Ben.
will die with that secret. Wow, some people need to loose lip Sally over here. Fucking shut up.
But obviously she
in
needs...
more ways than one. I worry about how we've answered this question purely from the fact that, because we don't want to create a pile-on, but we've been so like, it doesn't matter that it's the cousin.
Oh, no, it matters.
It's so effing weird. The whole thing is so effing weird. It is so, on many levels of like immoral, the trying to hide the paternity, the hiding the cheating, all of this. But the question you've asked is, should you be the one to tell? And I would be doing what you recommended, Britt. I would be trying to encourage her to have some truth to this and to be as transparent with her husband as she can. Maybe she doesn't want to tell the husband that it was with a cousin. Maybe she can just give 50% of the truth.
Nah, because if you've told your husband that you cheated on him, they're going to want to know who, when, why,
just say
what.
It was, I don't know. And maybe you make up a lie because I don't know. Part of me is like, is there any benefit of the whole family knowing that you fucked your cousin? I don't think so.
No, there's no benefit at all. It will ruin you. It will ruin you.
It'll ruin you.
Yeah, but imagine if Matt came to you and said, I need to talk to you, I cheated on you. Do you think you're going to accept the fact that he said, but I'm not telling you who or where? You would want every detail, which is normal. It's normal to want. I feel like the reason we're tiptoeing around this is I think we've been pretty open with how we feel. Don't fuck your cousin. That's how I feel. I feel that in my core. But you can't fight the law on this. Like, legally you're allowed to. And we've seen that it doesn't have that much of a consequence for your children. So that's why I think we're stepping up. We can say how we feel. I ain't having sex with any of my cousins. I'm not. But don't you know someone, Laura, that married their cousin?
Yeah, I do. Through friends of friends. I know people, they're like our parents' age.
Yeah.
And they have 3 children who are our age. And they've been married since they were like just out of uni.
Yeah.
And that's their first cousin. So, I mean, and don't get me wrong, like, of course, everyone is kind of like, wow, that's spicy and very, very strange.
So the kids know their parents are cousins.
The kids know their parents are cousins. The kids make jokes about it. They're very, very aware.
Yeah.
How else? What else do you do? You have to make a joke about
Yeah,
it. You've grown up your whole life knowing that your parents are also cousins. It is very, very, very odd. I'm not discrediting that. But if you met them as a family, you wouldn't go, oh my God, you guys are fucked. You would be like, okay, that's, wow, not for me. Not for me, but guess what? 3 incredible humans are in the world off the back of it. They are all great and they've been married for 40 years. So like, it's not my place to sit here and be like, you're a fucking weirdos, because it's just simply not. And why I say that is because their relationship didn't hurt anyone. There was not an imbalance of power. There was not any abuse. They fell in love in uni. They're cousins. They got together. They have kids. The end. This is different. There is an abuse of power and there is so many levels of lying that have happened here. And that's why this is so much more problematic. And that's why I have way more of an issue with this situation than what I do with like 2 people who consensually decided they wanted to marry their cousins, no matter how much we look at that and might think it's weird.
And at the end of the day, everyone listening is going to have a judgment on this. Some are going to think it's fine and all for it and going to be understanding. Some people are going to think it's absolutely insane. But the question isn't about that. The question is about, does she just tell the husband? That's where we're going to come back to. And I think it is, I would be going and dissing all this information onto her about why I think she needs to tell him, the reasons I believe, but then I'm not taking that on board for myself. I'm not going to go and be the one that tells the husband.
Yeah. I also think that this woman probably needs a lot of support at the moment.
100%.
I think that there is no good outcome in this situation. There is no good outcome for anyone involved. And yeah, I think it's just really fucking sad.